on ESPN. And tomorrow, we got an NBA doubleheader for you. First, it's the Cavs and the Celtics, and then the Rockets take on the Clippers. Our coverage tips with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern. More happening tomorrow as well. The league's deadline for teams to franchise tag players is tomorrow. You know, Adam Schefter is going to be busy. And he and John Keim both say a long-term deal between the Redskins and Kirk Cousins is not going to happen before the trade deadline. So, if franchised, Cousins will make $24 million this year after making $20 million last year. If they franchise him again for 2018, he's expected to make over $34 million, which would mean $78 million over a 3-year period, making him the highest paid player in the NFL over that period. Now, the NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah said last week that he thought there's a better chance that Cousins would be traded than returned, but the Redskins' trading power could be limited because of a source told John Keim that the only team Cousins will sign with right now is the 49ers under coach Kyle Shanahan. Merrill Hodge, you got all that? A lot of numbers.
I got it, and it's you know what? It just smells funny. It smells dirty. You know, there's something else going on there. Listen, you know how many teams would want some consistency at their quarterback position? I think the Jets would love that. San Francisco would love that. And to find a guy that's done that, and then when you just said he could be traded, okay, somebody doesn't like him in the higher-ups. So regardless of what he's doing, because his production is up there with, you know, the top 10 guys, too. It isn't like it's been bad. And keep in mind, there's a balance here. Their defense really went through some influx. Their defense is not a down defense.
I want to interject because I want to ask a question before we even go any further. You would know this. I had about 3 or 4 players from the Redskins who don't dislike Kirk Cousins literally reach out to me during the season while I was on this show saying to me, he can play, but don't go by his numbers always, because they said there have been many occasions where we'll be down or we're struggling, and what he will do is pad his numbers, calling certain plays, you know, in concert with the offensive coordinator, putting himself in a position where his numbers look good, even if it's not necessarily the right play that could help us get stuff done. Did you notice anything that could remotely come close to that being true?
No.
Okay.
Not being said, though, you know, listen, when you watch a play executed, you don't, I mean, you can, based on the coverage and somehow how it's designed, you can say, hey, should have went here. Now, I didn't see anything so egregious like a dig route is wide open and he drops it down to the check down. Which is kind of what's happening, what you're saying.
Right.
But, like I said, there's something there. It is weird. You know, because you're looking for, listen, he got put on the gauntlet last year. Mm-hmm. And you think, if he walks that line and plays the way he did, if you said this at the beginning before they played the Pittsburgh Steelers, at the end he's going to have and play like this, I guarantee everybody would say, he just met it. You know,
I do understand the logic from Washington's point of view, because I look at Kirk Cousins solid. As you mentioned, a lot of teams need stability. But it seems as though if you're solid and you're a starting quarterback, nowadays the expectation is you get paid like you're a franchise quarterback, like you're a great quarterback. It doesn't appear to me, Merrill, that he is. It appears to me that he's a solid quarterback. And, in fact, this works out for him and the team, because the team doesn't have a long-term commitment. Meantime, as you heard Molly said, over 3 years, he could be the highest paid guy in the league. Doesn't it work out for both parties?
Here's what I would ask y'all both to consider. And usually I've got my thoughts and what have you, but I'm really just throwing this out as question marks to be answered. When I look at Kirk Cousins, I see a better than solid quarterback. I see a guy that's good, Max. That's what I see. My issue, however, is I don't see a franchise guy. He's looking to be paid like a franchise guy. If that happens, I believe that it has the potential to divide a locker room, to alienate dudes, because when you're that guy, unless you come out and get drafted, and it's understandable that you're trying to get all the money that you can, a la Joey Bosa and stuff like that, even though guys turned against him. Ultimately, when you're that guy, despite the fact that he completed 69 to 67% of his passes the last 2 years, 4,100 yards passing last year, 4,900 yards this past season, you do look at him, and you do find yourself saying, if they give him this money, you're going to have a lot of guys chirping about whatever it is that you and I are sitting here speculating about that's missing. To those things, you say what?
Okay, now, and I'll defend that in the sense, especially if you lose somebody that you thought was more valuable than a Kirk Cousins. But if he keeps going on this pace, he's going to get franchise money. Yeah. Right? So he's heading there. Yeah. Then here's what you ultimately have to have as far as when you're looking at your plan. Who's your guy then? If you're willing to let him go, who's your guy? That's my point. Like, you hope that you can groom a guy within your organization, the same system, been consistent.
Ain't there right now.
Finally, but he finally stabilizes. Listen, you can't say the Washington Redskins, the problem is Kirk Cousins. That's one thing you can say. A lot of teams can't say that as a quarterback. Okay?
How would you rank the NFC East quarterbacks, though? Because when I look at the NFC East, I would rather have every other quarterback over Cousins. I take Eli, I take Dak, and I take Wentz. I think now
Even
Eli's
Wentz
future
right
is
now?
limited because he's older.
Right now, I wouldn't take Eli over Kirk Cousins.
Well, I would take Eli over him, and Wentz and Dak have such bright futures and are already so, they're already good, especially Dak behind that offensive line. Is Cousins not 4 out of 4 there if you had to choose who you want on your team?
Let me just, I guess I always look at the teams win championships, not the quarterback. Now, is he good enough to help you win a championship if you get some other things? That's why I keep pointing to the defensive side of the issue. There's some issues there, and if you're not going to sit there and acknowledge them and you keep saying it's your quarterback, which I think everybody could agree, because if you're in a debate, go, okay, listen, he's the 4th best. But is he their biggest problem? You still have to look at the team. What's the problem with the team? You're like, one thing that we don't have that quarterback issue. If we got some other pieces in place, improved in some other areas, which to your point, let's say you make a deal, you lose somebody that you know can help your team, and you lose that guy because you gave him money you don't think he quite deserves. You could have saved $10 million. Right. I could understand that, but then that's the problem in the system.
The system. That's not Kirk Cousins.
You can't blame Kirk Cousins for that, because if you were in that spot, you do the exact same thing.
I don't blame Kirk Cousins for anything. Well, go ahead. Would you lock him up long term?
The way he performed this year, I was like, this is a perfect position for the player to respond.
Listen,
and he responded beautifully. I was like, oh my! And then when this happened, I'm like, there's something else.
Let me say this: what I was told about Kirk Cousins, I don't like, but I'm willing to be man enough to admit it's kind of unfair to him, because at the end of the day, you go out on the field and you perform, and you look at the subpar quarterbacks permeating the National Football League. He's not one of them. I am hesitant to give him franchise caliber money, but the more he appears willing, to accept 1-year deals, the more my respect for him grows, because he's saying, I'll go out there and perform.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And how he's handled it, he's never complained.
He will be the highest paid if this continues over a 3-year period in the NFL. That's the bottom line if he stays healthy.
All right, let's keep it moving. So after signing a 1-year deal to stay with the Giants last summer, our Adam Schefter is reporting that Jason Pierre-Paul will be in New York for at least 1 more year after the G-Men slapped him with the non-exclusive franchise tag. It'll pay him $17 million this season if no long-term deal is reached before July 15th. JPP has said he does not want to play under a 1-year deal. Max, this one's personal for you. Is JPP the Giants' biggest need?
No, he's not. I understand addressing an area of strength. Sometimes counterintuitively you say, okay, this is an area of strength, make it even stronger. And he takes a good defense and makes it really good. Yeah. Not what he once was before the fireworks accident, but still, he got back to a very good level. But when I look at the Giants, the defense is not the problem. The problem is the offensive line primarily, I think. And that affects the running game, even whatever you think Perkins can be and all that stuff. And that affects time of possession. It affects the receivers. They can't even get into their routes half the time. So I think the biggest area of concern for the Giants is that O-line. But sure, you got to keep JPP if you can.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to agree with the offensive line. Listen, they're just not built to be a great running team right now. You just watch them, and, I mean, there's too many times that, listen, that's one thing that 5 guys have to really work together, and you got to move people. And last year studying them, they missed blocks. People got off their blocks. I mean, they just weren't a good running football team. They weren't good blockers. Can you improve in that? I think you can always do a better job coaching. I don't think there's any doubt that's their number one need to improve. Now, you go to JPP. If you think about the Green Bay game, could they have used JP in that Green Bay game? I mean, if there was one thing that stands out in that game, aside from Aaron Rodgers being great, was like he had all the time in the world. That is one thing that JPP would have brought to that game. He is one guy that would have been disruptive. If he had been able to do that.
If you can get to the quarterback, there's value to that. 7 sacks last year, second on the team.
That game
that used to be the
8
Giants'
passes defended. That was their
8 seconds.
I will say this to you. I'm really, and listen, Reese has had up and down career as the general manager for the New York Giants. I genuinely like him. I'm rooting for him. But I am sick and tired of us sitting here year after year after year talking about the Giants' offensive line. It's been too many years. It's unacceptable for it to even be a subject any longer, because on far too many occasions, too many years, we've been talking about the offensive line, thereby questioning the protection that Eli Manning receives when he's your franchise quarterback, and a running game that he's never been given. And that can't happen. Now you got to take care of JPP. Of course you got to take care of JPP. There's no question about that. But the fact, it shouldn't be a priority. And would I sacrifice potentially JPP if I can guarantee that I'm going to buffer my offensive line with it? And I know they can't do that. You got to challenge JPP, I get it. But if I could buffer my offensive line, that would be more of a priority for me than JPP, because it would improve my running game, it would protect my franchise quarterback, and that in and of itself would assist the defense to some degree.
Primarily, even though we're talking about the running game, it's the left tackle position that he really hasn't gotten right. Jerry Reese, the Giants GM, he's drafted a couple guys, Q, and then Flowers, to try to hold down left tackle. They can't do it. They're getting moved to guard or on the right side. And it reminds me, even with the way the Giants did it when they won the Super Bowl, he took David Deal, who was a guard, moved him to left tackle. The Giants have had an issue finding that star left tackle or even a competent one for a long, long time. That's actually the priority, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, listen, if you can have the magic ball and you can say, listen, we can fix that area, because I will tell you this, that one of the most important things, and Bill Parcells, when we worked together here, we had a lot of great conversations. And the one thing that he's always left me with, and it's made me even look at the game and understand maybe when I played like Chuck Noll and why they thought of this, you have to control the tempo in the NFL. It's so much different than college or high school where that is not a major factor. In the NFL, it is a major factor. One of the best ways to do that is if you can run the football, it permeates over to the defense, it permeates to your passing game, to say, hey, JPP, if he doesn't accept it, but we're going to go that way because we do have the pieces or plan in place to solidify that offensive line. It goes further than the left tackle. I mean, you got center and guards that can't keep people blocked for a second, and even you need a thumper, quite honestly, a guy who shocks the pile, shocks the box as a runner. It wouldn't hurt them to get him back, too. And so that combination, I think, is vital. If they knew that they could get that, that makes them a Super Bowl contender immediately. Without that, that will always be their Achilles heel.
Because they did make strides on defense. Obviously, last offseason was dedicated to that.
They'll even be better this year because that's, you're after your first system and you have comfort. They'll even be better next year.
Yes or no? AP as a Giant? You like that?
Yeah. That'll be an interesting one.
Okay.
But let me tell you this, if you don't feel that offensive line, then you're going to be disappointed in AP.
Okay. Meryl, so good to see you. Appreciate perspective. We'll see you on NFL Live a little bit later. The time has arrived, though, for Stephen A's final take. He has a strong message on the final day of Black History Month. Stay here. On ESPN. And tomorrow, we got an NBA doubleheader for you. First, it's the Cavs and the Celtics, and then the Rockets take on the Clippers. Our coverage tips with NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern. More happening tomorrow as well. The league's deadline for teams to franchise tag players is tomorrow. Adam Schefter is going to be busy, and he and John Kine both say a long-term deal between the Redskins and Kirk Cousins is not going to happen before the trade deadline. So, if franchised, Cousins will make $24 million this year after making $20 million last year. If they franchise him again for 2018, he's expected to make over $34 million, which would mean $78 million over a 3-year period, making him the highest-paid player in the NFL over that period. Now, the NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah said last week that he thought there's a better chance that Cousins would be traded than returned, but the Redskins' trading power could be limited because of a source told John Kine that the only team Cousins will sign with right now is the 49ers under Coach Kyle Shanahan. Meryl Hodge, you got all that? A lot of numbers.
I got it, and it's you know what? It just smells funny. It smells dirty. There's something else going on there. Listen, many teams would want some consistency at their quarterback position. I think the Jets would love